Hi, ladies. Welcome back to Ladies Bible Study. Hope you're having a wonderful day today, wherever you're at. It's Tuesday afternoon here in Missouri, and we're experiencing a wonderful, beautiful Missouri spring. It's like pretend spring. I looked outside on my patio the other day, and I'm like, "What in the world? I see something green growing over there." And I looked in one of my old pots, and my chives are growing, and they're probably about 6 or 7 inches high. And I thought, "What in the world?" But we've had some really warm days, like in the 60s. I went to the car wash yesterday with my car because I got up in the morning and I left and I thought, what in the world? My car looks like somebody sprayed mud on it. It had rained the night before, but I didn't realize that we had slept through a pretty windy storm the night before, and that mixed with the heavy rain and everything, my car was just covered in mud. And so I took it through the car wash, and when I got there, of course, the lines were really long. All the vacuums were, everybody was out cleaning their car and enjoying the sunshine. I think it got up to almost 65 yesterday. So there you go. If you're toughing it out in Michigan or Minnesota or something like that, at the end of February where you probably still have several inches of snow on the ground, I'm sorry for you. You could relocate here to Missouri. It's beautiful down here in February. But that just means that March and April, probably everything's going to be blooming. I love it. I love the weather down here. We get just enough snow to be able to see it once in a while, and then I'm like, okay, you can go bye-bye now. I'm ready for sun. But usually when spring lands here in Missouri, it means storm season, and that's not so fun. The tornadoes and that kind of thing. So anyway, it's a beautiful day again today. Lots of sun, and kind of perks you up and makes you want to get going, on some projects or whatever. Had a couple of busy weeks. My husband had surgery recently on his hand, and I took him to therapy this morning, and my goodness, it was the first time they opened the bandaging on the hand, and both of us were just floored by the gruesomeness of the incision that they did on his hand. I thought I was going to have to leave because things like that make me a little woozy sometimes, but I just felt so bad for him. But he has great movement in it, and we were both really encouraged to hear the therapist say that you're doing really well with your movement. So he has an issue with his hand called Dupuytren's contracture, where the fingers kind of draw in a little bit, and so they were able to straighten that for him. And it was his dominant hand, so it was important for him to get it fixed. But man, it was a gruesome surgery. So anyway, we were there this morning, and then I'll be watching grandkids here in a little bit. And I feel like every Tuesday I just have to, it's like jumping rope. You're waiting when you're doing Dutch doubles or whatever, and you're waiting for the other person to jump in. You're just waiting for that perfect moment. And so I find just the right time to like squeeze in and be able to teach Bible study. I don't like to do it on a different day because I don't know, there's always so much going on during the week that I feel like if I don't do it on Tuesday, it doesn't happen. But I hope you took time to jump on last week and start in the study of Priscilla, Aquila and Priscilla, but we're studying about her. And so good lesson, and a good reminder to us as ladies to get involved with people, to reach outside of ourselves and look for somebody that we can help be a blessing to. And that was the Lady Priscilla. And so if you missed last week's lesson, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to that, and just so you can not get them out of order, because today is the second half. But Priscilla and Aquila, they're described in the New Testament as providing a presence that strengthened the church, the early Christian churches. And Paul, he was really generous in his recognition of them and his acknowledgement of them and what they did to help him. He was indebted to them, and you can read about that in Romans chapter 16, verses 3 and 4. And when you read about that, I have to wonder, have I strengthened the church? What is it that I do exactly that somebody else would feel strengthened by because I did that certain thing? Do I strengthen the church like Priscilla and other godly women that we've read about in the Bible? Have you strengthened the church? And do we do that by our faithful presence, maybe by our sacrificial giving, or maybe it's being diligent in a ministry that the Lord has provided for you, some service area? Are we diligent with those things, or are we half-hearted about it? What is it that we do in the church and for the Lord that strengthens others? What would your pastor say about you if he were asked about you and your ministry and your service to the Lord? What would his Would it be a glowing report like Paul gave of Aquila and Priscilla? Would your pastor give you a generous recognition about your testimony in the church? I have to wonder about that kind of thing when I read about ladies like Priscilla. Not that, I'm not Priscilla, I'm Starr, but still, I know there are things that I need to do to help others, So what is it exactly that you do in your church? Do you, and like I said, do you think that it strengthens other believers because you do that thing? Or maybe it encourages them to keep going or to start again, maybe something that they've stopped. Or are there changes that need to be made in your life or in my life to do more for Jesus, to be that strengthening that's needed in these last days? Those are the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves as we study through these lessons. How am I doing? They're not intended to like beat up on you, but to help you, like me, just do some checkups along the way, to make sure that we're not drifting or getting off track somehow, or our focus is off, and our focus is too much on ourselves and not on the Lord or not on others. That's what these lessons are intended for. So in 1 Corinthians 16, verse 15, we read about these early Christians, and this verse says, I beseech you, brethren, you know the house of Stephanus, that it is the first fruits of Achaia, and that they have addicted themselves to the ministry of the saints. If you're going to be addicted to something, that would be it, to the ministering of the saints. But sadly, we get so busy, that we forget that others have needs. We get so focused on what we have to get done today and what we have to get done this week. I have a list a mile long of things that I want to do this week. Will I get them all done? Probably not, but I can chip away at some of it anyway. But I need to remember that this day and this week doesn't revolve around me. It doesn't revolve around the things that Starr wants to do or get done. I have plenty of time for Starr, trust me. But I need to make sure that my focus is on the Lord and on others. But if you're going to be addicted to something, this would be it, the ministry of the saints. And someone's waiting for you to take them under your wing. They're waiting and to encourage them in the things of the Lord. Who is it? When you ask yourself that question, does the Lord put a face or a name on your heart and on your mind? If so, then act on that. Act on that opportunity. Get on your phone right now. Wait till the lesson's over. Get on your phone and shoot them a text or an email or call them or whatever your way that you do things, and invite them over. Even if it's just for cake and pie, cake and pie. Yeah, cake and pie and cookies and coffee, or a game or a sandwich or something. Maybe just a sandwich after church on Sunday night. Have them over and spend some time with them, because the Lord put that face and that name on your heart for a reason. And I think it was my father-in-law that started it, but my husband also says it, to obey every spiritual impulse. So if the Holy Spirit puts something very clearly or someone very clearly on your heart and mind, you need to act on it, because that was for a reason. So I ran across this quote when I was studying about Priscilla again this week, and it's so good. It was so good that I wrote it in the flyleaf of my Bible. And it says, if we cannot be great, by God's grace, we may be the means of making others great. And I've always felt that way about my husband, my children, my grandchildren. I have no desire to be great. No desire, zero, to be a great person. I've always been the kind of person that just wants to stay in the background and the limelight, and I'll push and I'll be a cheerleader for someone else to be out front and be that great person. But I don't seek after that kind of thing. I have no desire for greatness of my own. If the Lord wants to use me in a greater way, I'll do my best to obey him. But I don't seek it. I don't go looking for it. So picking up in our study, we left off with number 6, and so we'll start right at number 7 this week. And the first question was, what will some of Priscilla's eternal rewards be? And we don't know what the Lord has in store for her, but I can imagine in reading our Bible, sorry, I keep reaching up there. I see my husband is communicating with our grandkids in Ireland, and it keeps popping up a screen over the camera here. So forgive me for that. But the best reward in heaven is seeing the face of the lovely Lord Jesus, the one that died on the cross for our sins. That'll be the best reward Priscilla can ever have. But I know there are also crowns to be won in heaven, and I believe Priscilla will have her share of them, just from knowing the kind of person that she was, how she put herself out there, and she endured persecutions and all, her perseverance, and the way her love of the brethren and encouragement of the saints. She was a faithful woman, and I'm sure her reward will be great. So she was a great woman, and she made it her goal to make others great. Number 8 says, Priscilla helped her husband in his home industry name some creative alternatives for women today to supplement the family income without seeking outside employment. And I believe the question meaning outside employment means having to leave the home and be gone for hours and hours during the day so that you're not at home. So all of our married life, all of it, I have always done some sort of side hustle or side job to kind of supplement the income, to help provide for groceries, or different, when the kids were younger, like certain school needs or shoes, or I just have always done something on the side to kind of supplement, because let's face it, a preacher's income sometimes just doesn't cut it when you're trying to provide for a family. It just doesn't. A lot of times you go without health insurance or without life insurance. Yeah, it can be a struggle sometimes, but all of our married life, I've done a side hustle to help with the running of the home. And I've done daycare, I've cleaned houses. For a few years, I worked at a YMCA, like before school program. It was early in the morning, from like 6 in the morning till like 8:30 or 8, I think it was like 8 or 8:30 in the morning. And then when those kids would go to school, then I would leave and I would go home and I would start homeschool with my kids. Now I had the beauty of doing that because my husband is a pastor, and so he would be home in those early morning hours while the kids were getting up and having breakfast and getting ready for the day. And by the time I got home, they were ready for school. And so he would go do his thing and I'd pick right up with school. And so we just kind of made it work for that job. I didn't do it super long. Then for a while I cleaned a furniture store. That was like one day a week I would go, and it was just enough, one day a week. And I think I made like $100 cleaning that furniture store. I cleaned houses for a while. That paid really, really well. I've done baked goods, specific baked goods during the holidays, and made really good money. So there's all kinds of things you can do to help supplement the income. The daycare I did, that was a bit of a challenge because I had my own kids at home trying to homeschool while doing daycare with someone else's children. But it worked. We made it work, and the girls during that time, on breaks or on lunch or whatever, they learned while they were growing up how to take care of children. So it worked for us. But just a really quick Google search online will give you a whole list of things you can do to make money on the side to help supplement your income. And I've had this question from a lot of young ladies, what can I do to help? Is there something? A quick Google search pulls up all kinds of stuff. The very first one was dog walking. And so, and I know sometimes that pays really well. If you walk someone's dog every day, you're making 10 or 20 bucks a day just to walk their dog, but look for a neighbor that works, that has a pet, and make yourself available to them. Make a friend of them and just let them know you're available to walk their dog, once or twice a day while they're at work. Maybe if they have to be gone or whatever, you could offer to watch the dog for them. There's money to be made there if you like animals. There's a delivery or ride share like Uber. You might not be super comfortable with that. I wouldn't be comfortable with that because I'd be afraid I'd sign up for this Uber appointment or whatever, and it would be a man, and that just goes against my thinking. I just wouldn't do that, be alone in a car with a man that I didn't know. I just wouldn't do that one. So I don't even know why I added that one. Don't do Uber. There's tutoring kids with school subjects, teaching music lessons. Make yourself available. Get your name out there that you are available to do those things. There's writing, editing, reading books. All of those pay really well if you find the right avenue to go down. The reading of the books, I've thought about trying to figure out how to accomplish that. If you ever get on Audible at all kinds of people on there are being paid to read books. Some of them are not so good to listen to. Their voice inflection, there's no I was listening to a couple of samples last night of books, and I thought, there's no way I could sit and listen to this whole book and listen to them read it, But there's money to be made in just reading books. Then there's photography. If you have a keen eye for pictures and backgrounds and all that, and you're familiar with your camera and not just your phone, although phones take really good pictures these days, photography, creating memories for others. Just start taking pictures of people and candid shots and things like that and sharing them with people and get your name out there. A personal assistant, someone who shops for groceries for someone else, maybe a cook for them or clean for them, organize their things. A lot of elderly people are looking for help with this kind of thing, especially someone who's honest, trustworthy, someone they can really count on. Then there's makeup and beauty services abound. There's people all over online that make you watch them put their makeup on, make you watch them put their makeup on every morning. I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. But there's makeup and beauty services. God bless you, those of you that do that. I admire you. But there's also things like Pampered Chef, essential oils. Everybody's selling essential oils these days, right? All kinds of marketing jobs. Be careful not to get stuck in the MLM schemes where you'll lose money if you don't perform according to the standards that they have set. So be really careful about that kind of thing. Or there's a lot of money that you have to lay down to work this job. That just seems weird to me, that you have to pay money to work a job. But I don't know about that. Another one is grocery shopping for others, like Instacart, things like that. Daycare in your home, I already mentioned that. House or office building cleaning. I cleaned the furniture store, but I know a lot of times those are done either early in the morning or late at night. So possibly when your husband's home, you would have an hour or two to slip out and do a cleaning job. Creating and selling crafts and other handmade items on Etsy. We were at someone's house recently and I looked on the wall and she had all these, I think there were letters, like the capital, the capital and the small case letters. She's a homeschooling mom, and so she had these letters up there, and I can't remember if it was just the letter or if it was verses, but they were on the wall there where she does school with her kids. And I looked at it and I thought, what in the world? That is beautiful. I mean, it was calligraphy, just very professional looking. And so I said something to her and she said, yeah, my husband said that I could probably make money selling things on Etsy with, she has got that calligraphy down pat. And so Suze, if you are watching, she has a new baby too, but so, trying to create something to sell on Etsy, but that calligraphy, it's beautiful stuff. And I know people pay money for like handwritten scripture verses or little items like little wood signs and things that you could put calligraphy on. People pay money for it. So look for something that you're good at and sell it on Etsy. A lot of people do embroidery work or knitting, crocheting. We have a young lady in our church that her mom, when this young lady had her baby, she's opened all of these gifts from her mom, and I thought, oh my soul, they were just gorgeous pieces that had been knitted and crocheted, just gorgeous. And I asked her, does your mom sell that stuff? Like, surely she has an Etsy store where she sells it. No, she just does it because she loves it. But beautiful work. Find an avenue to sell your stuff. Another one is flipping and reselling furniture. A lot of times you can be driving down the road and see a piece of furniture on the side of the road for free. Someone just doesn't want it anymore. Maybe they couldn't sell it, so they'll put it out on the road. And they think somebody will stop and grab that. You can grab that piece and flip it and resell it, or just sell it, period, because you didn't pay money for it. It was free. The only money you have into it is maybe the paint or the varnish or the, I can't think of it, not varnish, but you know what I mean. The preparation that you use to get it to the point of being able to sell it. So that would just be free and clear money for you other than your product that you used. Another one is making specialty foods and products. So all those tasty small batch sauces and dressings, drinks, baked goods that you like to keep stocked in your pantry, somebody had to create those. Those started somewhere, and most of those were started in a lady's kitchen. And everybody raved and raved about it to the point that she started, making it in larger batches, and then eventually had a way to market it. So it all started in someone's kitchen. So maybe yours could be the next one. Maybe you have a knockout pesto sauce or a homemade hot sauce, something like that you like to make that everybody just loves, It could be that your homemade cookies are more valuable than you think they are. I am not going to pay $5 for a crumble cookie ever again. I'm not doing it. I did it when they opened up just for the experience of it, but I'll never do that again. I also don't like going through Starbucks drive-through lane and paying $5 for a cup of coffee. So I'm kind of cheap that way. But make your cookies the ones that everybody wants, and then offer them at the holidays. People go wild for great food, don't they? My daughter Sarah recently started getting into, in the last year or two, getting into making charcuterie boxes. It started at a baby shower that we had. We just kind of went wild with it. And so she had the idea, let's do a charcuterie table for this lady's baby shower for a lady in our church. And so she had all the ladies bring stuff to make this charcuterie table, and if I knew how to edit a YouTube video, I would totally put the picture up for you to be able to see it, because it was gorgeous. So it's one of those 6-foot white banquet tables, The thing was covered in charcuterie art. It's an art. And so afterwards I said to her, Sarah, that's something that people purchase for like wedding receptions. And so I started Googling charcuterie. Well, then I landed on charcuterie, not a charcuterie box or a charcuterie board, but I landed on a charcuterie table. And the pictures that popped up were very similar to the one that she created for this baby shower. And I said, do you know that people will pay upwards of $700 and $800 for a charcuterie table at a wedding reception? And so it kind of got her creative juices flowing, and so she looked at doing charcuterie boxes for like special occasions, but up to this point she hasn't been able to find the right avenue to really get those things to move. But they are gorgeous, just beautiful little charcuterie boxes. So find what you're good at and market it. Last Christmas I make cinnamon rolls. That's what I'm known for. And so I made those, I think it was last Christmas, yeah, and I marketed. I don't know, this year I just wasn't feeling it this year. I don't know what it was. Must have been a busier time of year this time than last. But last year I made them and took orders, and I literally had to cut it off at 100 orders because I'm one person. I didn't have someone in the kitchen helping me make these things. I cut it off at 100 orders. I started it at Thanksgiving, did quite a few then, but Christmas was the big one. And I made a good amount of money. I did. But then things went crazy, and the price of butter went through the roof, milk, everything got super expensive. It was when groceries started, like, it's like, what is happening? Why all of a sudden did butter go from like $1.98 a pound to $4.50 a pound? I don't, what? And so I had to bump up the price of the cinnamon rolls, and that kind of like, it was like throwing a wet blanket on it. But anyway, I spent too much time on this. And what I'm saying is that find what you're good at and get your name out there, get your product out there, and make money to help supplement the family income. It can be done. Number 9 says, define hospitality. Well, that is the act or the practice of receiving and entertaining strangers or guests without reward or with kind and generous liberality. So I love the ministry of hospitality. I need to do it more. I'm just like you. I let the busyness of life get in the way sometimes, but I also need to remember that it's more than just inviting people inside the four walls of your home. It's more than that. It's inviting others to join your circle of conversation at church when you tend to choose the same 2 or 3 people to talk to, or just you tend to talk with just the people that sit in your area of the church. And I lament this a lot. Our church is not huge. I don't know, we run about 300, but there's 3 sections to the church, and sometimes I just beat myself up because I'm like, why can I not make it all the way over to the side of the church, that side, to greet those people? And so now on Sundays when we have handshaking time, like I'll choose a different section of the church. I make it a purpose to go over there and hug ladies and, greet people. But yeah, look for more people to invite into your circle, rather than just talking with the same 2 or 3. Being hospitable is doing something liberally for someone else that can't do anything back for you. No expectation of them returning the favor of your hospitality. No expectations. Being hospitable is such a kind-hearted thing to do. People want to be around someone who's hospitable, that has that spirit. You have no idea the effect that your friendly, hospitable spirit can have on someone. It just puts people at ease, makes them feel at home, makes them it makes you seem easy to be entreated, like you're approachable, being hospitable that way. I could go on forever about that topic. I really could. I've been studying it and writing about it for the past couple years, and I need to put it more in motion, I feel like. But it's something that is really dear to my heart. It's very needed in our Christian circles, but I think it's lacking quite a lot if we're honest with ourselves. So when life gets crazy busy, the first thing we do is cloister ourselves into our home, because it's our safe space. It's our quiet place. We tend to close our doors and just cloister ourselves in our house. And we convince ourselves, I don't have time. I don't have time for one more thing. I can't be stressed about worrying about if the house gets clean because someone's coming over Sunday. We convince ourselves that we're too busy, that we can't do it. We just need to get through this day, get through this week. There's so much going on, But and then we say we'll do it later. It's a busy time right now. Let's do it later. But later never comes. There's always something else to take the place of that busyness. There's another busyness or whatever that comes along, and you need to just purpose in your heart to make it a priority and make it happen. Okay, once a week or once a month, just but set some sort of goal to be. And this kind of hospitality that I'm talking about is having people into your home, of course, but make it a goal. So whatever you decide, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever, but take the first step and just do it. And so a good goal is to just take your church directory, has all of your church family's names in it, and just start going through the list and inviting people in. And I think before long you'll be hooked. You'll have such a good time getting to know that family that you'll want to move to another one and get to know them. So when I think about that, I think of ladies like Phoebe. In Romans chapter 16, verse 2, it says, I commend unto you Phoebe, our sister, which is a servant of the church, which is at Centuria, that you receive her in the Lord as becometh saints, and that ye assist her in whatsoever business she hath need of you. For she hath been a succorer of many, and of myself also. And the word succorer, we don't use that very much, but it means someone who gives help in times of need or distress or difficulty. That's quite a list. People always have needs. Everyone has needs. Many times people are in distress for one reason or another. Many times people are suffering difficulty for one reason or another. So be like Phoebe and be a succorer of many, a helper. Number 10 says, contrast hospitality with entertaining. Entertaining is receiving with hospitality, receiving and treating with provisions and accommodations. So a little similar, for reward. Keeping or cherishing with favor, engaging the attention, or amusing. So in this instance, we see that entertaining is for reward. That could be just for the moment, just for the, you're living in the moment, this is fun, this is entertaining. The reward is, the event itself, the laughter, the amusement, whatever. Or it can mean having someone in your home that could return the favor, that kind of reward, knowing that I'm going to invite, these people are from the same class of people that I am. I feel like, they are as established as I am. They probably make the same amount of money that I do, we'll probably get along really well. So I'm going to invite them over to my home because I know they'll probably invite me over to their home. So it's done. It's this entertaining, and like I'm going to have them in, they're going to have me in. It's all expectation of the favor being returned, that they will, because they're that kind of people. I like doing stuff for people that can't do it back for you or back to you. But I feel like this entertaining is what it is. It's for the sheer purpose of just entertainment, amusement, nothing really spiritual about that type of thing, just fun and games. So that's entertainment. Number 11 says, what excuses do we make for not showing hospitality? And you could probably add to my list. I just threw a few things out really quick. And then the questions are, which of these are linked with pride, indifference, or maybe just plain old laziness, not doing it. But the things that just popped out of my head, are right off the top of my head. House isn't big enough. I could say that one. House isn't nice enough or clean enough. Can't buy expensive food. Can't really buy food that you would feed guests. Our furniture is old. Maybe the cat scratched at it, or the dog hair, or there's dog hair on it, or the kids have smeared food on it. The carpet's worn out. I'm just too busy. I'm not a good conversationalist. Those were just the ones that I came up with. You could probably add to it. They're all excuses, and excuses only satisfy the one who makes them. That's the way excuses work. But you have to remember that people don't come to your home to have a tour of your home. They come to your home to spend time with you and get to know you and sit down with you one on one. And like I said last week, people aren't going to notice that you cleaned that plant on the top shelf. They're just not, you know. We get pretty psycho about that kind of thing. But people come to spend time with you as a person and to have fellowship with you. That's when you think of hospitality, you have to think of it that way. I get that you want your house to be clean, and it should be. You know, you don't want to invite someone into your house and have it be a pig pen, you know. But don't let that worn out carpet or your older furniture be the reason that you don't have people into your home. You have what you have. It is what it is. You know, make the best of what it is, you know. But don't fret about the fact that you don't have this and don't have that and can't do this, but do what you can with what you have, you know. I've probably mentioned it before, but when we were newlyweds, we lived in a tiny little cracker box apartment, and probably many of you did too when you first started out. I'm sure it was less than 500 square feet. It was really small, and the kitchen was nothing. It was just nothing, you know. It had a little tiny L-shaped kitchen, you know, very little counter space or cupboards. I really didn't have much to put in them, so it didn't matter. But we didn't have any furniture. We had a little collapsible card table that we kept in the kitchen. That's what we ate at, and we borrowed metal chairs from the church. So that was our dining room table, you know, and we didn't have any furniture when we got married. So our in-laws let us borrow furniture um, until we could get our own, which that didn't happen right away. That took a few years, you know, and we really struggled those first few years of marriage. And even our bed, we didn't have a bed frame. It was a box spring and a mattress on the floor, you know. So, but the Lord provided. He took good care of us. We had exactly what we needed. We didn't need. You don't need a lot of stuff to survive to exist in this world. We had a roof over our head and food on our table. We had a bed to sleep in. We had clothes to wear. We had everything that we needed. Yep, we did. It was okay, and we got through it. And you know, I can look back how God's provided for us. So many. Everything in our house has been given to us. It's very few things we've actually purchased. So. Anyway, that was our house, and we had, like I said, we had no table to eat at. We had that little card table with the borrowed chairs, but I knew it was important for us to start hosting, being hospitable, having people in our tiny little home, you know, getting to know people. So we invited people over, and if it was a small group, then we would sit at that little card table and eat there. If it was more people, we'd sit in the living room with our plates on our lap, and many times, even when my husband's family came over, because he had 5 siblings, you know, they'd come over and I'd set up my ironing board in the living room, put a clean sheet over the top of it, and use that as a buffet. And we'd put all the food on there, and we'd go through the line and get our food and go sit down in the living room with our plates on our laps, and we were fine. It worked out perfectly fine. You know, didn't need to be up on some kind of high horse about stuff. We just used what we had, and the Lord blessed it. You do what you want to do. Right? That's what it boils down to. You do what you want to do. If you want to be a help and be hospitable and be an encouragement to someone else, you will. That's what it boils down to. 1 Peter 4:9 says, use hospitality one to another without grudging. We're encouraged to be hospitable with other believers. So we just need to get busy about the matter of doing it, you know. Number 12 says, how could you use your home in ministry to others? Well, when we discussed number 3 up in the beginning of the lesson about using our homes for the glory of God, our homes can literally be a haven of peace for other people. And we can find a new believer that needs to be discipled and have them in, you know, for some one-on-one time, maybe a meal, and then discuss the Bible with them. That's what Priscilla and Aquila did with Apollos. Took him under their wing and instructed him. We can invite in a lonely widow for dinner and encourage her lonely heart. Maybe you have young adults in your church that are just starting out, just starting their families, having babies. Have them in. There's so many avenues to explore when it comes to being hospitable, using your home for hospitality. Maybe you could offer a free night of babysitting to a struggling young couple who desperately need a date, but don't have the money for a date and to pay, $20 for a babysitter. It can be really expensive trying to have a date when you have to consider paying a babysitter. So maybe offer a free night of babysitting to a couple. Just ask the Lord to lay somebody on your heart. And I have to admit, there are times that I've let myself become lax in this part of ministry to others, being hospitable in my home. I try to be really hospitable outside my home as well, but sometimes the busyness of life, I do the same thing. I cloister myself into my home and I forget to be hospitable and have other people in. Sometimes family life and ministry life, it gets super busy. It really does. Even if you're not a ministry family, life gets busy, doesn't it? If you're homeschooling children and job situations and just stuff, life gets really busy. I get it. And sometimes there's so much activity that our homes become our haven of rest and peace, and we feel like we're just done peopling. I'm done peopling today. I'm done peopling this week. Why do we get like that? But we do. We get tired, and we no longer want to open our door. Instead, we want to close it in an attempt to have a little peace and quiet from the outside world. And I get that. I've been there plenty. But I know hospitality goes much further than our four walls, but a good portion of it should take place within our four walls, in our home. That's where it takes place best, one-on-one with people, be an encouragement. So that's my encouragement to you this week. Be more like Phoebe and look for someone to take under your wing and be a help and encouragement to this week. Somebody's waiting for you. And when you ask yourself that question, I know the Holy Spirit put someone on your heart. So act on it. Invite them over this week, even if it's something small. Doesn't have to be a big old Sunday dinner spread. If you're not able to do that, then just have someone over for dessert and coffee, or just to chit chat over a hot cup of tea and cookie or something. But do your best to be hospitable this week. That's all the time we have for today. So glad you joined me. Look for someone to be a blessing to today, and look for someone to give the gospel, and be urgent about it. Our time here is so short. I love you all, and I'll see you next week.